You're listening to SM Media, the number one place for exclusive Scottish football content.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media Scottish Football Show. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always. It is the final podcast before the league splits into two, always a classic of Scottish football. And we brought along two excellent guests to talk about the final weekend before we go into two halves. First of all, you'll recognise him from being one of the most famous referees ever to come out of Scotland and one of our favourite guests on the show. It's a pleasure as always to have on. Welcome back, Charlie Richmond. Charlie, welcome back, mate.
Thanks very much, Scott. What an introduction there. You made me feel a bit 10 foot tall now.
10 foot. Wait till we get to VAR because I'll get your thoughts
Oh,
on that.
no.
We'll bring you back. We'll bring you back down to earth. And a very happy Hearts fan, and I don't think there's been many of them over the past few weeks. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the show Adam Kennedy.
Thanks, mate. It was always going to be an underwhelming introduction after that. So, yeah, thank you.
Absolute pleasure. We've obviously got a full weekend to talk about. Charlie, we'll touch on Stirling later on. I'm sure that'll be probably the highlight of your weekend. And Adam, I'm sure you'll be happy with a 6-1 victory for Hearts. But we will start with the game that took place today. We're recording this on Sunday night. Aberdeen 2, Rangers 0. Aberdeen obviously puts a very big stamp on third. That is the 6-1 in a row in the league. Charlie, both sides of the coin. Let's start with Aberdeen. One of the form teams in the league at the moment. I thought they were getting into this in flying form again. Always kind of raised their game against Rangers. And they were just really, really well deserving of their win, I thought.
Yeah, the better team played football. The hype of the game, as always, is we spoke about off camera that the hype of the game now, Aberdeen, Rangers, and as I said as well, Scott, I think Rangers' eyes are on next weekend. Let's not beat about the bush. The league's by. Celtic are going to win it, and the Rangers will be looking at the semi-final next weekend, as well as Celtic, as we'll speak on for there. But yeah, hats off to Aberdeen. New managers comes in. The manager knows the players. He's got them up for the game. They've played really well. And a lot of Aberdeen supporters will be saying, where has this run came from?
Yeah.
Why did it not come at the beginning of the season? Why all of a sudden something just triggers something and off you jolly well go? And a bit like what Adam will talk about as well with Hearts, Ken, where is it all coming from? And it just shows you the good old cliche, football's a funny old game.
Adam, Hearts, obviously, looking at it from a Hearts perspective, Aberdeen were, I think 2 months ago, were sitting in 9th place and closer to relegation, and they were to third. They're now 5 points ahead of Hearts, and Charlie makes a good point. Where has this run come from? And today, obviously, big game occasion. I thought a lot of their big players like Samiofsky, Clarkson, I thought they all rose to the game really well. I thought it was a really good performance from Clarkson. And they're now in a really good position to finish third. And who could have thought that 2 months ago?
No, he'd have been absolutely bonkers for predicting that Aberdeen could finish third. I think the thing that impressed me today as well is the fact that nobody seems to be talking about the fact that Aberdeen are missing Graham Shinnie as well, who's been so influential since coming back to the club, serving the first of his 4-match suspension today. So, yeah, not too surprising a result. I sort of fancied Aberdeen to get something, but I mean, a 2-0 victory is... They couldn't have asked for much better than that, particularly given that their first half performance wasn't even that great. And then sometimes all it takes is that little bit of luck, like the Liam Scales cross-turn goal. And then Miofsky obviously pops up late on and essentially kills it. So, yeah, job done.
Charlie, reversing the coin a wee minute to talk about Rangers. And I have a real case of deja vu, and I feel this has just been the story of Rangers season. They start quite well. They get some decent chances going, but again, they just they're very wasteful. Second half, they come out. They're not that much better. They create a couple of things. Not a lot of real clear-cut chances. Then lose a silly goal, and then for there, they could play all day and not score. And I just think this this Rangers season, and I know they've been consistent since Beale's come in. I know they've been winning games up by short margins, and they have been improved under Beale in the league, but it's the same old story. And I'm going to be honest, I think until that squad is completely revamped, they're going to just be second best.
I thought today was a team of individuals. I didn't see it as a team, a collective team performance where you're fighting for your neighbour behind, or you're tracking back in to double up and help, and you're really fighting for the cause. I just saw it as, and then the goal, okay, is it meant? Is it a fluke? All that carry on. It just deflates them. And there's nobody there to lift them. I don't think there's a right. Tavernier's been very good over the seasons, but this is when you need them to step up and rally everybody. And I didn't see that today. I didn't see anybody coming out as if to say, right, let's go. And it takes me back to a couple of seasons ago, a real couple of seasons ago, when you had two guys in the dugout at that time, and it was McCoist and what's the other boy? Oh God, McDowell. And you look across to the bench and you're saying to yourself, where are we getting the motivation when somebody's just standing there with their hands with regards to there? Now, I don't know Beale as much. Is he a coach? Is he a number two? Is he a great number two? But is he a manager? Can he make that step up? And what was his emotions like on the touchline today? And he just as if, oh, well, okay. Maybe he's thinking about next week as well. I don't know. Can we get through here with injuries? But yeah, get him another transfer window. But what does he really need? The out and out striker that you're looking for, you're going to have to shop in the double figure millions. Where's Rangers going to get that for with regards to there? Or do you just look for players in the single figure millions who are going to come in and work for you, do a job? Can come to Rangers and work for me. When we go and look at players, the scouting players, the first thing I look at is, can that guy come into the dressing room and work with rather than work against? And Rangers at the moment, I think, is just a team of individuals.
Adam, I do think Michael Beale can take Rangers forward. I do. I think the evidence has been there. Obviously, the results have improved. They are capable of kind of putting in some good performances, but I don't think he is going to go far with these players. I think I look at the likes of Lundstrom, Barisic, Kamara. Kamara even didn't go on today. Just players like that, Morelos, they can't go any further at that club. And I think Michael Beale's been very outspoken, sometimes not to his own good, because I think today as well, when you've got the assistant manager saying some of the Postecoglou things are sticking in his head, I'm like, well, why is that getting mentioned? Focus on the game as opposed to making headlines in the media, which has never went well for Rangers this season as it is. Now, I think Michael Beale's in a very, very tough position because he has to win this game next week. If he doesn't win this game next week and Celtic go on and win a treble, if Rangers play Celtic next season, the first game, and Rangers lose, he's not got that old firm victory in the bank where he can go, where he can hang his head on that. Maybe Charlie, if you'll remember, Alex McLeish didn't catch Celtic his first half season, but he had 2 victories against them and he spurred them on. And Beale doesn't have that yet. So next week is massive, but he needs that. He needs to completely blitz that squad because that squad is done.
And I was about to say, had he not had investment this upcoming summer, then the problems go even beyond Michael Beale. I think the worrying thing for me, if I were a Rangers fan, would be Michael Beale coming out and saying that most of the squad, the majority of the squad, will have a part to play next season. When how can that possibly be the case? I'm sick of hearing about Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos, so they'll both walk away for nothing. And whether that's not Michael Beale's fault, that's not Van Bronckhorst, Gerrards. I think that's beyond. That's the Rangers hierarchy for not, protecting 2 of their most valuable assets. But I mean, all he's really had is Cantwell in, Raskin in, who both look decent, but he's going to need a good 4 or 5 more of those of an equivalent type, both offensively and particularly defensively for me. I mean, the goal today, Borna Barisic at left back is snoozing. We've seen this one too many times. And Alan McGregor, I think, is coming toward the end anyway. So I don't know. I think Rangers missed a big trick last summer with not shelling out on a number one. And I think that probably might well be their number one priority in the summer.
Charlie, before we kind of move on, like final point in this kind of Rangers thing, like I look at Rangers bench today and I look at bringing on Rabbi Matondo. Now, Matondo, you can say he hasn't come in and hit the ground running. Arfield scores 2 goals against Aberdeen last time in the last 5 minutes. Why has he been brought in with a minute to go if you're chasing 2 goals? Do you know what I mean? It's things like that. And I look at this, I know the Rangers bench has been sidelines with injuries. I know there's a lot of injuries, but it's the same players getting injured. Ryan Jack, remember the arguments I used to have in this show about Ryan Jack. Love Ryan Jack, but he's not going to take. He's done. He's as a 40 game a season. You can't trust him. You can't rely on him. Kamar Roof, you can't keep him. You can't keep Hollander. Hadji's still got a lot of time to come back. These are the same guys that are getting injured. Rangers need a complete revamp and bring in players that are a lot younger, a lot more healthier, and it needs to be a complete blitz.
Yeah, I'll pick up on one point, Scott. Why is there so many injuries?
Well, that's the question.
That's the question. What is it? Is it because of the way that they're training? Is it the way they're no warming up, or are they no giving recovery? Because the emphasis is on this recovery, recruit, and that side of things. On the short pace of time from the final whistle to hear the jungle drums are beating that Ryan might be finished, and he might be out the door as well with regards to that because of his injury side of things. For there, your academy. Why is Rangers not producing 1 or 2 players coming through in their academy? With regards to that as well. So, what is that? Is it because the coaches are not good enough? For there, because every time you go to academy meetings or you're involved with you, and not everybody's going to make it to the first team. But why is that? Again, you should be looking as an academy to maybe get 2 or 3 and try and relieve the pressure on your transfer budget by maybe giving 1 or 2 players through, or in the case is sell the young player on and try and make a bit of money from it to take it for there. Back to your original side of things, yeah, the bench looked the same. And if you're making substitutions in the last 5 minutes, the only reason you're making that is to wind the clock down. For there, if you're 2-0 down, you're not going to do anything. And it's a shame to the player that you're not going to bring Scott Arfield on with a minute to go. You're going to find 2 or 3 minutes to find your feet before he even gets going. Whereas on the other side, and we'll speak about it later, the other side of the fence, or the other side of the city, you could set your clock by Ange Postecoglou's 60, 61, 62 minute substitutions, and off we go again, and jolly well go. And maybe as a manager, Beale's looking at the bench, he turns around and he thinks, who have I got here to try and turn this game round about? All right, I'll just pick you. Or I'll just pick you, and it's a case of all right. And you're right with Matondo and stuff like that. Are they Rangers class players?
That's the thing, yeah. And I don't think there's a lot of Rangers class in that squad. I look at defence as well, and I kind of think there's a lot that. I mean, I spoke to a friend just before the game started. I said Rangers will lose the same goal. They just that ball into the box, and it didn't happen today. It was a high ball into the box, and as Adam says, Barisic is sound asleep for the second goal. We're seeing these goals for the past 4 years. Nothing's changing. And for Bill to say a lot of these players are going to stay with me next season, apart from Alfredo and Allen, that's because Alan McGregor's 41 and should have been replaced last year. Why was he getting a guard of honour leaving the part last season in the cup final? That's not a guy who's signing on for another year. That's a guy who's been persuaded to stay because they don't want to go and break the bank to get another goalkeeper. And Morelos is done as well. When it's a shame for me because I think Alfredo Morelos is on his day a clinical striker. He offers so much to that Rangers team, but getting injured 12 months ago, he hasn't found he's still looking heavy and still. I just think there's a lot of problems at Rangers, and I think Michael Beale is going to have to completely rip it up and start again. Let's move on to Hearts 6, Ross County 1. The early kick-off on Saturday. Adam, I can see that smile already. This looked a lot like the old Hearts, the Hearts that were flying at the start of the season, and again, just shows you that there's been problems. There clearly has, and we'll get into that. But this Hearts team can still do what they used to do. The Shankland getting a hat trick. I thought Ginnelly was magnificent, and it looked a lot like the old Hearts that we used to see.
Hearts with a handbrake off, I think. To me, I think Alex Cochrane as well at left back. I don't know why he's not been starting games. I don't know if that's sort of one of the behind the scenes. I don't know if he's a troublemaker behind the scenes. Obviously, with the Snodgrass situation with Robbie Nielsen then leaving the club, I don't know if there's been a fallout or what have you. But to me, Alex Cochrane's been arguably our second best player this season. And it just seemed from the first minute yesterday that Hearts were going out with real intent. And like we've not seen a complete performance like that for a long, long time. Yes, Ross County were very poor. I'm not going to get too carried away. County were very, very bad. But it actually makes such a difference when like Hearts and a fast start at Tynecastle go hand in hand. And we've not seen that anywhere near enough for perhaps all this season, and maybe a little bit even in towards the end of last season. It's been a long time coming, that type of performance.
Charlie, it has been a long time coming, that type of performance, but I can't say I'm overly surprised. I think Ross County are in a bit of trouble now, but Hearts, Adam kind of hit the nail on the head there, played with a handbrake off. It looked a lot like a fluent Hearts performance. Shankland I thought was really good. I thought there was a lot of positives to take. And I think they could have scored more if they wanted to. Yeah,
in this case here, Naismith's come in and said, right guys, let's go and show what we can do. You've got a freedom. This is a setup. I want you to go, but you have a freedom to go. And see from experience, and Adam will back this up, seeing the first 10, 15 minutes at Tynecastle and Hearts are at it. That was only because it was a Hearts Rangers game the last time. Hearts are at it. The atmosphere just gets right up and the whole place is buzzing. And if you play fast forward flowing football and then put the ball in the back of the net, it's a real excellent atmosphere. It's brilliant to get that for there. And one cliche, one swallow doesn't make a summer with regards to they've put 6 past the team in the bottom of the league for there. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Ross County, as much as Malky come in, steadied the ship and done that, I'm a firm believer of always the second season. Always look at a manager in the second season, because the first season you get that wee bouncer, you get that wee side of things, and then all of a sudden it whittles down for there. Sometimes as well you maybe need, and this is sometimes you maybe need a bit of turmoil in the club for things to change, to turn around and say, now obviously Snodgrass has said that he's going to come out and give his side of the story. There's everything. There maybe have been Snodgrass and Naismith in the background from the playing days before or whatever. So hey ho, Naismith's the manager, and he's gave a freedom to everybody. He's picked a team. That's another thing as well, as a new manager getting in, you get that freedom to pick the team. And I'm going to say, I've looked at you in training. I don't fancy you. He's obviously been the assistant manager as well. I don't fancy you, so I'm going to give you. And that gives a player who's on the sidelines a chance to say, right, you're going to be the manager. I'm going to play for you. So all of a sudden, and 2 or 3 things clicked for Hearts yesterday, and it just made them look really, really good. Yeah. On the other aspect, Ross County, it didn't click, and they made them look really, really, really bad.
Yeah. It's vital, as you say, though, that they get the crowd on side, because obviously off the back of that Derby defeat, as long as they go without a goal, the more anxious the support gets, the more angry the support gets. They had to get them on side early doors, and the Cochrane goal pretty much opened all the trapdoors after that.
Yeah.
Adam, what do you think about potentially going forward? Like, obviously there's chat in the media about who Hearts are potentially looking at as a manager. What do you think now? Do you think after the kind of Nielsen experiment, and I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, I always felt with Robbie Nielsen that when things were good, they were excellent, but when they were bad, like it only took one result for it to be a crisis. It wasn't a case of like it was always kind of steady. It was always either all high or all low with Hearts under Robbie Neilson.
That's just Hearts generally, though, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, and I think that's, and we'll get into that obviously with Celtic in a wee minute. But what do you think of Naismith's chances for the job? Do you think it's possible? Would you be for it, or does he need to show more?
I think today he's been dealt his hand really with Aberdeen beating Rangers. I think that'll pretty much secure them third, and I think he pretty much had to finish third in order to land the job. I think Hearts were in a lose-lose, to be honest, because I don't think Stephen Naismith is anywhere near experienced enough for this to be his first managerial gig.
Mm-hmm.
So it was either finish third and guarantee European group stage football again, Naismith gets appointed as the Hearts manager, successor to Robbie, or finish fourth, miss out on that cash. Yeah, we've still got the chance to, qualify for the conference. I think we go into the third qualifying round, if I'm not mistaken, and then the playoff and what have you. But so, like, that's still a possibility. But I don't know. I mean, I see Chris Wilder's now the favourite. I wouldn't be surprised to see him through the door, to be honest.
And that could be
is it the time for Hearts, Adam, to gamble on a young, inexperienced manager who's probably not known the club? Is no we fling this word legend about. He's no a legend of the club. He's a young, inexperienced manager. Is it time to go with that, or is it time to settle the ship and then drive forward? Because as you're still a lot of things happening off field as well with your fan ownership and stuff like that. And the second part is whether the manager, whether it's Neilson, Levine and all that, I don't see Hearts with a plan B.
No, I think that's the primary concern. And I do think that there's still sort of, I don't know, this idea of Ian Cathro that's still lingering upon Hearts. I don't think they're going to go inexperienced again. I think we've tried that. It evidently didn't work. I think there's also a sort of thought amongst maybe fans that a foreign manager, again, given Daniel Stendel was our last one, I don't think that's going to work. I think they will stick to Britain. Chris Wilder's supposedly got a link somewhere. I don't know whether that's through family or friends or whatnot, but I can't see them going outside Britain, to be honest, for a manager. And in terms of kind of off the field stuff, I mean, this is a man that has managed in the Premier League, albeit his last two jobs haven't been great, but done a great job with Oxford, Northampton, Sheffield United. So maybe just fancies a change of scenery as much as we fancy something different.
It'll be a very interesting few weeks at Hearts. We'll move on to the champions-elect Celtic. They're held for the first time since January the 1st. They drew 1-1 at home to Motherwell. Charlie, I saw a lot of criticism towards Celtic from Celtic fans, and I think that is wanting your cake and eat it to a degree. I don't think you can be too critical on a side who've dropped 7 points this season. I think it's just a blip. As you say, I think there's something in the fact that potentially next week and the championship is all but won. I don't think you can read too much into that.
Not at all. The only thing I would say is a fortnight ago they played in the Old Firm game. They won the Great. They still won it. They still ground out the result for there. I think it's just one of the things that happens in football where you turn around and you say to yourself, we've had a wee off day. Everybody's just had a wee off day, but I'm 100% convinced I want to play next week's semi-final. So I'm not going into that tackle where I could maybe end up with an injury or whatever for that side of things. But again, on the other side of the flip coin, praise to Motherwell. Set up their stall, kept them at bay, knew what to do, worked their backsides off, every single one of them. That's your job, that's what you're going to do, and let's go there and take it for that side. So, yeah, Celtic fans, don't read too much into it. The league's by. I don't care what anybody says. The league's by. Celtic will win it in due course. They'll be looking for the bigger fish, which is the treble. They'll be looking for that. So if we win next week with regards to that side of things, and I don't mean any disrespect to the other semi-finalists, but I think the winner will come from the Old Firm semi-final. So Celtic beat Rangers, you would say that they would go on and make that final part of the jigsaw. don't read too much into. It's a one-off result. It's a blip. It's a case of, oh well, that's it. Let's go on with it.
Absolutely. Adam, I think a small bit of praise, well, a big bit of praise actually has to go to Motherwell for their obviously tightness of keeping the game 1-1. Not many teams have went to Parkhead and I don't think they've lost points at Parkhead since this time last year. So it shows you their ability to obviously to win games at Parkhead. Where would Motherwell be without the goals of Kevin Van Veen? 24 goals worse off for a start. And he's always a difference maker, and he's that kind of difference between Motherwell in a relegation fight before Kettlewell came in. And if it wasn't for Van Veen, I think they would potentially be in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. I mean, what a job Stuart Kettlewell is doing. The Motherwell hierarchy must be kicking themselves to a little extent, because had they emptied Stevie Hamill a week or two prior, they might have even snuck into the top 6, given the way that things were looking. But Kevin Van Veen, absolutely top, and I don't get the criticism that he gets from some Motherwell fans that he doesn't do enough off the ball. I think you stick him in a good 18-yard vicinity and you've got every chance. I mean, his goal even at the weekend turns Greg Taylor inside out, and it's a cool, calm, composed finish past Joe Hart. But with still half an hour to go, I was of the impression that Celtic would then go on and do what they do, maybe grab one or two late on, but fair play to Motherwell, because that's an outstanding result, which again, like it must be somewhat frustrating for the fans that can't aid a quest for top 6. But given where they were a couple weeks, months back, I mean, survival was the be-all and end-all, because I think most, or certainly a fair chunk of folk thought that they were a goner.
Yeah, I was one of them. I thought they were. I think they were about 11-1 to go to be in the bottom 2, and I thought they could be a good bet to go down, because I just thought they were getting worse and worse. But Kettlewell came in and they absolutely steadied the ship. Speaking of a team who have kind of got themselves out of they're still in 11th, but they're in a lot better position than they were last week. And their first away win of the season was Kilmarnock, a 2-0 away win to St Mirren. St Mirren obviously clinching top 6, but not the performance they wanted. But Charlie, Kilmarnock, how bad a win did they need away from home?
Well, they definitely need to pick up points, no doubt about it with regards to there. And it now looks as if who's above them, Dundee United. So it's basically going to go and match the results, and then I think it'll come down to that game against each another. Kilmarnock, when McInnes come in, it was all hype about the place, and it just hasn't happened for them. And for there, McInnes won his watch a wee bit. We getting to the latter stages of the cup, for there. But they so badly need it, but they need to win other games to the end of the season. For there, you know what it's like sometimes on the other side of the coin. The home team are looking to party, and they're looking to party. You're going to spoil the party, and to a certain degree, St Mirren had done their hard work the weeks before. Yeah. So again, in that side of things, results favoured them, and they obviously snuck into the top 6. It's a great achievement for St Mirren, but realistically, for a St Mirren supporter, top of the bottom 6 would have been acceptable as well, for there. But it's the added financial boost you get by playing the games against Rangers and Celtic, Aberdeen, Hearts and Hibs, rather than Kilmarnock, Dundee United, St Johnstone, etc. for there. So what Kilmarnock need to do, to sum it up, Scott, is they need to get that performance again next week. And if they can do that, then there might be light at the end of the tunnel to take them away from that playoff place. I don't think they'll go in the automatic relegation place. I think that's Ross County, afraid to say. But they just need to get and match Dundee United's results. And at the present moment in time, I'm just looking to the league, they're 7 goals worse off. So they need to try and change that 7-goal difference.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start, Adam, we'll move on to Dundee United, a 2-0 home victory over Livingston. Big result for Dundee United, obviously. They've just been gathering pace over the past few weeks. And they look, again, just the Jim Goodwin appointment, it is beginning to pay off. They look a lot more confidence, they're building momentum. They weren't brilliant against Livingston. You can tell Livingston obviously were doing what they did. They're maybe unlucky not to finish top six. Their end of season forms went against them. But Dundee United, 3 wins in a row for the first time in over 18 months.
Remarkable. And it was nice to see a goal from Jamie McGrath that wasn't a penalty. Great strike to obviously fire them underway. I think the thing for me when I watch United now is they seem to get much more sufficient service to Stephen Fletcher, who is still a top centre forward even in his mid-30s. I think if you give him the sufficient service, you've always got a chance. And they seem to find him more often than not these days. Even his goal, he has a couple chances in the first half, a few headers and whatever, but his goal's just really well done by Kai Fotheringham. The interception and the perfect layoff, knows exactly what he's doing with it. Cool, calm, collected, seal the 3 points. And 3 wins on the spin, like you say. It's just a shame that Kelly seem to be matching them toe for toe at the minute. So it's going to be very intriguing in the final 5 fixtures, that's for sure.
Charlie, what do you think of obviously Kai Fotheringham's a player you know quite well? To see him doing it at Dundee United and contributing, that must be good to see.
Yeah, he came out on loan to us at Stirling Albion and lit up Stirling Albion's league campaign, and he won us a lot of games. He really came up to do that. And the funny thing about it is we had just secured them for the loan to the end of the season, and then Dundee United changed, and bang, anyway, I'm sorry, they had a lot of injuries, and they called him back. But he's one to watch. Mm-hmm. He's one to watch. He will have a good career in football for that side of things. Again, no disrespectful to Dundee United, but he might kick on. He might kick on somewhere for there. But saw him firsthand a few times, and he's explosive. He's young and he's explosive, and he gets the ball and he knows what he's doing, but he's also got that calm and composure. He doesn't look jittery when he gets it for that side of things. So again, bringing that into the team as well gives everybody else round about in Dundee United a lift. And as Adam says, if you're giving Stephen Fletcher service, he's going to say thank you very much. And Stephen's a type of striker that if he gets 3 chances, he'll probably score 2. For that, rather than if he gets 3 chances, score none for there.
Absolutely. Final game of the Premiership. St Johnstone won, Hibs won. Adam, 2 very different sides of the coin. Hibs secure top 6. It hasn't been easy, as you can imagine. I think last week was a big contribution to getting top 6 for Hibs. Other side of the coin, St Johnstone lost. Obviously, manager's gone. I think St Johnstone I think St Johnstone on a slippery slope. I think St Johnstone could be the one. Dundee United and Kilmarnock get a bit of form.
Finishing that playoff place, you reckon?
St Johnstone, 100%. I think I'm just looking. I'm not obviously telling everybody where to put their money, but 11-4 St Johnstone to finish in the bottom 2. I don't think that's a bad price at all. I just think they're in a lot of problems.
Yeah, and it's funny, like teams seem to catch fire at the right time to sort of get away from trouble or kind of gain their objectives. Might Dundee United be that this season to pull away? Kilmarnock, again, their home form's been good. We obviously need to see the final 5 fixtures. I'm not a fan of the split. I'm just going to come out and say I'm not a fan of the split whatsoever. I think it's a total nonsense. But once the fixture computer does what it does and we can see who's playing who where, I think we'll have a greater idea. I'm with you though. St Johnstone, for me, I think they sort of looked at their points tally and thought that they might be all right. And then they've obviously decided to then sack Davidson thinking we are safe, not banking on the fact that United and Kelly are obviously in desperate need of the points.
Absolutely.
And then you'd be looking at back-to-back playoff place finishes for a side that then won the Cup double a couple of years back. I know you can't live on past glories, and they did have, key members of that team whisked away from them. But to then finish 11th in back-to-back campaigns after that would be incredibly, incredibly underwhelming.
Charlie, obviously the game kind of turned in the red card to Diego, and I don't want people to think that I bring Charlie on when there's a kind of refereeing decision that generates a lot of controversy. Otherwise, we would have had Charlie on a couple of weeks ago with the Fancy situation. But this kind of leads to an interesting point, and I know you'll probably be sick, fed up, being asked about it in VAR and things like that. And as similar to last week with the Shinnie one, I think this is very similar because can he do much more than what is that a dangerous tackle?
What you've got to watch, what you've got to watch, Scott, is how you tackle for the ball nowadays. Yeah. That's the big thing. It's not a case of, I've won the ball. Winning the ball doesn't really have an effect on it. But also is how you go into that tackle. If you go in with your studs showing in a dangerous manner, you cannot stop. So you go in studs showing, dangerous manner, you win the ball, you can't stop, so you're automatically going to carry on through and do some damage and stuff like that. So what you've got to think about now is how I tackle for the ball, because you showing endangering safety and ticking the boxes for that side of things, whether you win the ball or not, could result in the red card aspect of it and for there. So when you look at that type of challenge, when you look at the Hibs player, you actually see him with his legs and his boot and his leg is at 90 degrees. So the studs are shown and he does touch the ball, but he then carries on his momentum into to catch, and he catches the St Johnstone player higher up in his leg. And when you look at that, and they talk about slow motion and they talk about stills, forget about stills and stuff like that. But when you look at that, then that's when you make your decision. And you say, oh, that didn't look clever. And that's when he would make his decision with regards to that. And also the VAR official, and I'm not telling tales out of school, but you're only dealing with 4 cameras.
Yeah.
So your views that you've got are only as good as the cameras positioned in the park. So you could, why is he not showing them all the angles? He might only have 2 angles. Be using camera A and B or camera C and D, and for that side. But you've got to remember, 2 of the cameras are positioned for offside. So you might only have a view from the front side of camera A and D and the back side of camera A and D. So you're looking at it for that side, and that's not to get VAR off the track, because we've had some horrendous decisions. Yeah, don't get us wrong, but it's the perception now of how you tackle, and that's what players need to watch. And I don't think players are coached how to tackle nowadays, because the majority of the times it's a second touch tackle. Yeah. It's an overstretch. It's a lunge in, and for that side of things. If I was given any advice, if you're going to tackle, try and go to ground first and slide in, rather than going straight along the axis, come round and try and slide in that way.
Is this our fault for bringing VAR in too early and rushing it after 12 games? Are we now sort of seeing the repercussions of this week by week?
My perception is, and I've said right for the word go, is to trial it for a full season behind the scenes and then bring it in. Yeah, for that side of things. But you'll always get the argument of, well, we've got it and we've got it working, why not get it in? But all of a sudden now, you brought it in mid-season and you've rushed, I'm not saying you've rushed the officials through, but the VAR officials need to have X amount of hours training. So you're getting it for that side of things. So me personally, I would have took it on cup competitions, and then I would have brought it into the league campaign starting 23-24 league campaign, and tried to give as much as we possibly could. And what I would have done right at the very beginning was the officials who have just retired or in the retiring age of going to, they would be my, do you fancy staying on and doing another season as a VAR official only?
Yes.
Rather than referee and do it for that, because
that was something I was interested in. Sorry, Charlie, but
yeah,
when you're putting 6 VAR, 6 referees into VAR, you're then bringing up into the Championship, for example, guys that are maybe not at that level, because you need to put 6 VAR.
It's the knock-on effect, Scott. So that'll drop down. Yeah. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, and you're eventually pushing guys through, in my opinion, too quick. Absolutely. And I think that's the standard of refereeing in general in Scotland. We're just pushing guys through too quick, because we need to do it. Remember, 2000, they brought in the fourth official. So all of a sudden, that was 6 referees for the Championship moved in to be 4th officials. So we battered through. So what I would turn around and say to yourself is the guys that are retiring, and say to them, right, do you want to be a VAR official? You've got an experience, because the other side of the kettle or the other side of the coin is, if I've got Wally Collum refereeing a match and I've got an inexperienced VAR official, it would be very good to take for that point, or vice versa. If I've got a young inexperienced guy coming into his first season in Premier League games and I've got a John Beaton in my ear saying, you need to come and look at this, you need to come and look at that, it's going to be a brave young guy to turn around and say, no, I'm going to stick with my decision. If he looks at that and takes it for there. Whereas if you've got an old experienced guy, every week giving advice, giving the concept for that, I think it would ease the battle. And I think that's the kind of avenue that not only SFA but UEFA, FIFA are looking now to stream VAR-only officials.
Yeah,
but watch this space, because I was hearing in the great that FIFA in the next what's the competition before the Confederations Cup, FIFA are going to look at contentious decisions. They're going to bring that into the umbrella of VAR. So see when there's a penalty claim and it's contentious, or see if there's a red card that's contentious, and you're looking, well, the referee and other decisions that they're going to bring them in. I think Kalina is quite forceful in trying to bring more responsibility into VAR. But Adam, yes, we need to get our house in order. And everybody laughed at Ian Maxwell saying, when VAR comes in, I can't mind what he said, but it was along the lines of it's going to be a shambles or something.
3 months it was going to be.
Yeah, and he's right, because I think we're just rolling things too quick.
So what do you say when you see a pundit, for example, a well-known pundit saying in the media, VAR, it would be better for Scottish football if VAR was scrapped? Surely that to me is ridiculous, because you've got the technology in, and yes, it's not been done. There's been a lot of contention about it. I don't think it's been given enough time to properly for the referees to learn it. I don't think scrapping it is not. That's going to make things a lot worse than they are now.
Scrapping it's not going to happen.
No.
As true as I'm on this show,
1000%
you, Scott, it's not going to happen, because there's a lot of money invested in it. And if the Scottish referees want to referee in Champions, you look at the Champions League semi-finals, Europa League semi-finals, quarter-finals appointment. I can't mind when the last Scottish official had done an appointment. And if you don't use VAR, you'll not be there. So you've got to, it'll not be scrapped. But what you've got to be aware of is these pundits is, there's only 4, 5. In an Old Firm game, there's only 7 cameras. So that's all the angles you're getting. Can you remember the game at Firth Park? Motherwell Celtic?
Yeah, Jota.
The offside. They were using the camera from the other end of the park because they've limited to the cameras. So we need to be aware of what we're trying to do with the technology that we have. We don't have millions of pounds to bring in 24 and 36 cameras like what the English Premier League has. But you can see they're also making a hash of it as well. So we just need to get time to settle down and realise what level that VAR has. But also in the concept, there has been some horrendous decisions, yes, that have not been overturned or not been given. So that there is that we just lay off everything now and let it settle out for a season. And that goes back to my point. I don't want to labour it too much, but run it behind the scenes for a full season and take it, and then bring it in. And next weekend would be a perfect example to roll it out, because that's what they've done with the 2 assistants behind the goals.
Because they brought it forward as well. It was meant to come in after the World Cup, and they brought it forward just because they had it. That it was, again, we could get through this all night, and it's one of those things. But again, if I hear anybody else in the media saying that VAR's scrap VAR, it's not going to get scrapped. There's too much behind it. It's not going to happen. So that's not going to happen. Let's move on. We've got some other things to talk about. We've got our Old Firm Women's Scottish Cup final. Rangers will play Celtic. Charlie, 2 sides. That is going to be a really interesting final, but also that league season is going to be a chaotic finish because all 3 teams could win that.
Massive, yeah. trying to take my side away. As you well know, my daughter plays for Rangers, but she's recovered from an injury at the moment. So Rangers in a strong position that have not really kicked on. They've got a lot of good players and they've a lot of kind of missed results for there. Celtic again have picked it up. Glasgow City are up there, but they're kind of faltering a wee bit again. Ought to deal with strength and depth of the squad sometimes for there. And I do believe they have to play everybody as well because they've went into the split as well. So yeah, a wee run together, and you could end up winning the league. And because of the top two are Champions League places for the girls, that puts more strength on it. And an Old Firm Cup final, Rangers won the first cup this season. So again, Celtic won the Scottish Cup last year, so they'll be looking to try and maintain it. So again, a good spectacle for the women's game, as long as we don't get stupid antics after the final whistle. What's that guy doing? Why is he still at the club?
100%. I've said that for many times. Championship, let's go into the league that nobody wants to win. None of the top five won again. And now we're sitting in the position, 2 games left. Dundee are in 59 points, Queen's Park in 58, Inverness and Partick Thistle 55, 53. Ayr are out the playoffs in 52, Morton there in 51. This is going to be a while into the season, Adam. This is the league that nobody wants to claim.
Oh, God.
I have to say, I was at Somerset on Friday night and I didn't think much of Queen's Park. It was a poor game between them and Ayr. So I don't know if it is just a really weak championship or whatever, but Queen's Park Dundee's the last game of the season, isn't it? In Glasgow, so that could be an absolute cracker. I take it that's going to be the one that the BBC choose. Have they said that?
So, yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah, I would have thought so, surely, because they'll all play that Friday night, won't they? Simultaneously, the past couple of seasons. Yeah, so yeah, could come all down to the wire. But I could not tell you which way it's going to go. I really couldn't, because I did not think much of Queens. And just as you think that Dundee are going to take advantage, they don't. So I don't know. I really have no idea. And the playoffs are crazy. I thought Thistle might get up there. I think Partick Thistle will look at it and say the bottom 2 teams, I think they've only picked up something like 8 points in their fixtures against the bottom 2. So had they picked up more against the likes of Accies and Cove, could have maybe been nudging that a little bit more toward the league title. And that's despite sacking Ian McCall after obviously the cup match against Rangers. So it's just a mental league. It's always a mental league. You couldn't call it.
Charlie, we've got the potential of the winner of the championship could probably pick up 65 points. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
No. But also on the other side of things as well, everybody could draw to the end of the season with regards to that. I think it's just the nerves.
Yeah, I think
because it's the nerves of what's involved and of winning that, and you're back up into the Premier League for there. 65 points is quite a low in that concept, because it's usually up round about the kind of 80s, 90s side of things. But interesting that I don't have the wait to see. Drawn. Wait till we see. Here we go. Dundee drawn 11. Yeah. Queen's Park drawn 7. Cali Thistle drawn 10. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in the whole league that are double figure drawn. So that there's the reason behind it for there. Is it because it's so good that everybody's in a level par, or is it like Friday night, Adam? I watched it in the telly in the house and it was dire. Ayr United in Queen's Park was dire.
I watched Arsenal Southampton. I turned over to Arsenal Southampton. That was a thrilling game. And then I was like, I knew a couple of people that were at the game and they were telling me how boring it was, but it's just this league. It's just the way it works. League One, obviously, Dunfermline are champions. They drew 1-1 away Airdrie. Adam, Falkirk obviously got a massive game coming up on Saturday against Inverness in the Cup semi-final. They've done their confidence no harm with a 4-1 away at Alloa.
No, absolutely not. But there must be a part of Falkirk fans that think if Dunfermline have bounced down to then instantly go back up and we are still rotting away in League One. Like this, it's all on the playoffs for them, really, isn't it? Like this has to be their year. I thought it would be their year, actually, just given the sort of experience that John McGlynn had in comparison to James McPake. But the Pars, well-worthy champions. It's just whether the Bairns can follow them. But I think if you offered them to get beat in the semi-final, but guaranteed to go up in the playoffs, they'd 100% take that.
Falkirk, as much as they've got McGlynn in there, they've still got off-field problems.
Oh, yeah.
Off-field problems. And I think...
With the season tickets and whatever, like that speaks volumes to me if you're offering like countless years to follow them.
And if you've got problems off the field, right, I don't care what anybody says, that filters into the dressing room. So when you turn around to players, now I know on average players are usually offered a year contract. Very rarely you get 2-year contracts, but that filters in and you're thinking, whoa, I'm only going to be here for a year. So I need to look elsewhere or whatever, if we don't get up, etc., etc. Yeah, they've fired some results together, but would you have thought Dunfermline to win it by almost 11 points? No, really, no. So Falkirk are still... I wouldn't be surprised if they went out and won next weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and won next weekend. But the league, yeah, they'll need to get back up into the Championship, Falkirk, at whose expense?
100%. Let's move into League Two, Charlie. Yep. Congratulations on order. Stirling Albion are champions of League Two. Couple of things on this. Obviously, I remember speaking to Darren Young, obviously the Stirling manager, probably about maybe 18 months ago, just after he'd left East Fife, and he was absolutely demoralised. To see the recovery in him, first of all, has been remarkable. Secondly, the start Dumbarton had to then be that far above them now, in some season for Stirling.
Absolutely, and I've got to tip my hat to Darren, because his motivation and his enthusiasm is there 100%. He loves football. I'm not telling tales out of school, but he thought he got a raw deal, and when he felt he could have turned it round. So East Fife's loss is Stirling's gain, and also we've been quite astute in identifying important players. And we spoke about wee Kai Fotheringham coming in. And after Dumbarton's start, we just had to hang in there. Mm-hmm. But the turning point was the first time we played Dumbarton at home, and we thumped them about 6-0 or something. Yeah. And ever since then, that's us on a run of 17. We've not been defeated in 17 games. And a lot of last 5-minute winners to win the games, etc., etc. Went to Dumbarton and last Tuesday night with a chance of the first time of getting it across, and the important message was not to lose the game. We drew it, and then coming up against Dannon, who I went to watch a couple of weeks ago, and we've got over the line at the second turn. But yeah, Darren, and he'll not mind me saying, he's a very, very good, astute manager. Yeah, for there, and Stirling will tie him up, and we'll go again, and I think we'll hold our position in the league above next season. With a wee bit of due diligence in bringing in the right players and securing the players in the contracts that we need to. But yeah, he's enthusiastic. He's very, very enthusiastic, Dan. He knows what he's talking about. And he's got good guys running about him with Craney as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be between Spartans and Brecon to get into the potential pyramid playoff game against the 10th side in League Two, and it might not be Bonnyrigg or Albion Rovers. Adam, big results for them at the weekend. Bonnyrigg went to Forfar and won 1-0. Albion beat Stenhousemuir 3-1, and just like that, Elgin are now in 9th, 37. Albion still bottom in 36. Bonnyrigg on 38. Just going to run through some of the games. Elgin hosting Barton. You've got Albion away to East Fife, Bonnyrigg away to Annan. Final game, Albion host Stirling. Bonnyrigg, Elgin in the final game. That could be a massive game.
Oof. Yes, some trip that for Elgin coming down to Bonnyrigg to potentially be consigned to that playoff place. I think
Elgin have just lost their manager as well. Elgin have made a change, which is a bit of a kind of panic. I would say that is a bit of a kind of panic at the moment. I know Albion Rovers changed, but they changed a few weeks ago. Sandy Clark has come in there.
Yeah, I was going to say I think the Beanos will still be partying hard on the last day of the season. I don't think they'll really care too much about what happens at Albion Rovers, so that might give them a chance. You never know. Yeah, it's all on Bonnyrigg, Elgin, isn't it? Really, I think.
Charlie, who do you think if I was to offer a prediction, who would you think could finish in the 10th place?
I would probably say at the moment, because of the circumstances we're there, I think Elgin. I think Elgin will draw. They've changed their manager and they've had a few, but no great. And they were up middle of the table, middle of the season. They were up there. They were doing all right, but then all of a sudden they're in a grow. They've got the worst goal difference. They're -16. I'm just looking at here. Bonnyrigg are -14. Albion Rovers are -2. So I think Albion, they had a great result at the weekend there, didn't they? They won
3-1
against Stenny.
Yeah. So I think the tails will be up for them. And they might clear. And it'll probably go Elgin, Bonnyrigg. It'll finish a draw, and that means Elgin will drop into it. So I'm sorry to say, but I think Elgin will finish in that playoff place with regards to 10th.
It's going to be a very interesting end to the season, and that is going to do us for this week's show. It's been another entertaining, fascinating show as always. My thanks go first of all to Charlie Richmond. It's been a pleasure, mate.
Thanks, Scott. It's been good to get on. I know the last couple of times I've been away on holiday for there, but it's always good to come on and catch up and have a wee kind of non-refereeing thing. Because the funny thing about it is, when you contacted me the last time, there must have been about 8 media guys. Can you give a comment? Can you give a comment on VAR and the old firm and all this? And I'm like, I'm in Portugal, pal. Just leave me. Just leave me. Plus, that's another thing as well. I was talking to my pal. It's 11 years. A fortnight ago, 11 years I've been at the game, and people are still interested in your comments for there. So there you go. But pleasure to be on, Scott. Thanks very much.
And to Adam Kennedy as well. Thank you very much, mate. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, Scott. Thanks again for having me. Nice to meet you, Charlie.
And the same to you, Adam. Sorry. Aye.
Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Please follow us on social media as well. And we've got a lot of content coming out this week. We have a West of Scotland show coming out on Tuesday. We'll have the latest episode of The Betting Ring on Thursday. And a special guest will be joining me on the sit down on Friday. Check out that. And for more announcements to that during the week. Thanks very much, folks. We'll see you soon. Cheers.